Now, from either side of the aisle, there are different viewpoints, but even within each side, people don't seem to agree. And we're seeing this inside the settler communities in Judea and Samaria, who are all hoping for different outcomes. And to give us some insight into what those are, I'm joined by political strategist and Director of English Operations at the Yamina Party, Jeremy Saltan. Jeremy, a pleasure to have you with us. Now, we know that the Palestinian Authority has been rejecting this plan since the outset. Nothing new there. But now it's the settler leaders themselves who are taking issue with it. What can you tell us?
Well, this plan has been in the works for over 3 years. Originally, it appeared that the Trump plan would not call for a Palestinian state, but this American plan does. Additionally, based on the conceptual maps, there are many concerns in regards to access roads that are lifelines to many Jewish settlements that would potentially be cut off. There are other issues, including the lack of coordination with mayors regarding to the implementation phase. And of course, as you just mentioned in the intro, we're not sure what will actually be included on July 1st, or in fact, if it will be on July 1st itself.
And we know that there's been meeting after meeting, of course, with both Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defence Minister Benny Gantz most recently. And there doesn't seem to be agreement even between the settlement heads as to, as you said, how to proceed. So what are we hearing in terms of the different standpoints internally?
Well, there are two different groups. What most agree on is obviously the opposition to the Palestinian state. However, what is key here in division between the two groups is the issue of trusting Netanyahu. It's a very complex plan. It's very difficult to explain. And what it comes down to in the end is trust. Those who don't trust the prime minister are opposing the plan.
And what are the concerns, of course, around the formation of the Palestinian state, both diplomatically, ideologically, and from a security standpoint?
Well, there are, many concerns that a lot of settler leaders have. I think one of the problems a lot of them are really going through here is that each one opposes it for a different reason. If you go ahead and you look at the settler leaders that support the plan, there's also no coherent underlining statement of which they're getting behind. That's why I said, to me, what it comes down to is trust. Because, again, this is an American plan, not an Israeli plan. So if they're going to get answers from the prime minister, they have to know that they can really believe what he is telling them.
All right. So then to that, what do you say to those who say that the move should only be done with relevant parties like the Jordanians and the Palestinian Authority? What do you say to that?
Well, this, again, is an American plan. It's not an Israeli plan. The Americans have coordinated the plan with everyone who has wished to provide their input. I can tell you additionally that there are many times a divide between what a country or an organization says publicly and what they say and how they act privately.
So what are you saying about that? You're saying that Jordan is publicly saying that it's supporting the Palestinians, but privately it's telling the Israeli leaders it's with Israel?
I'm not going to go ahead and talk about any specific country or organization, but what I am telling you is that definitely there are actors within the international community who are saying one thing publicly and privately they're saying something completely different.
All right, and then on to another matter entirely. The High Court, we know, has almost unanimously thrown out a law that's been frozen, in fact, since 2017, that would allow the state to expropriate private Palestinian land where thousands of settler homes have been built. They were saying that the law was unconstitutional and that it violates the property rights and equality of Palestinians. But then the one vote in favour in court argued that while it does violate Palestinian property rights, the court could have at least asked the Knesset to limit its scope. So what's your take?
Well, the Supreme Court has 15 justices, and this case was heard by the 9 justices that were appointed before Ayelet Shaked's tenure as Justice Minister. So the 8-1 ruling was one that could be expected. I think it's unfortunate they chose to choose specifically 9 and specifically go by seniority and leave the other 6 out of it, because I would imagine if there was a different composition, we would have probably seen a different result in terms of the vote. That being said, about the actual situation here, it was the Israeli Supreme Court decision to repeal this regulation outpost law, and this really creates the first test of this unity government, because it's quite obvious that the right and center-left aspects within this government do not see this issue the same way.
All right.
You know, the Supreme Court intervention in the Knesset Speaker incident established this government. The Supreme Court intervention this time might even have the potential to topple it.
Jeremy Saltan, thank you so much for that insight and for being with us.
Thank you.